you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K, 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 S-I-C-K,
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. S-I-C-K
is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K, 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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to LaFleur. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Coupe Stanley pour les Canadiens. Le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida Tibi. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Welcome to the Sick Podcast on this Monday, June 3rd. And there's no NHL hockey tonight. No, and now there are two. The Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers will square off in the Stanley Cup final with Game 1 in Florida, slated for Saturday night. It should be a dandy. Marinaro, the Sick Podcast, brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. Also brought to you in part by Bittt, Tibi, Brewed in Quebec, a winner of a dozen international awards. Bittt Tibi offers quality microbrewery beers made with premium ingredients for everyone's taste. Bittt Tibi, embrace your true nature. Also brought to you in part by Playground. Experience it like never before. Enjoy world-class poker, 900-plus gaming machines, weekly events, karaoke Mondays, comedy Wednesdays, live bands on Fridays and Saturdays, much more. Discover their latest additions, the Etc. Steakhouse, the Drunken Dragons, exquisite sushi, the Esperanto Cigar Lounge, and Babel Lounges, meds, and cocktails. Playground, your ultimate destination for entertainment, just over the Mercier Bridge. Visit playground.ca for details. He's usually not our regular collaborator on Monday nights, but, seeing as it's Eric Engels usually on Monday, but we had Eric join us at Souflaki Authentique last week on Thursday. Well, Stu Cowan is going to join us tonight. Stu from the Montreal Gazette and HockeyInsideOut.com. And there's a reason in particular why he's joining us tonight as well, because I had a chance to see him yesterday, and I know that he really enjoyed Jordan Harris's company, who yesterday we were at the Jewish Sports Celebrity Breakfast. I know, Stu, it's been an annual event for you and I for quite some time now. It seems like over a decade. I don't know how long it's been, but it is over a decade, I think. And it takes place at the Cummings Center and has more often than not, with the exception of 1 or 2 years. But yesterday, once again, it was at the Cummings Center, and they give out various awards throughout the day, one of which is the Sports Personality of the Year. And, of course, Jordan Harris is a biracial Jewish player. And as of March 2024, I don't know if any entered in April, but he was the only one in the National Hockey League. And he was honored by everyone in attendance there yesterday at the Jewish Sports Celebrity Breakfast. What a day it was, huh? It was awesome, I thought.
It really was. It was a 20th annual breakfast, and it's in aid of the Jewish Seniors Fund there, taking care of the elderly people in the city, in the neighborhood. And you forgot about another person who was honored yesterday, was Tony Marinaro himself.
Thank
who
you.
got the Larry Fredericks Award for Media Personality of the Year, which is very, very, very well deserved. So congratulations to you on that, Tony.
Thank you, Stu. I appreciate it.
And with
I think it's the first award I've ever won ever since I've been in the media, to tell you the truth.
Oh, you got a good one. You are Personality of the Year. You deserve it, Tony.
Thank
you.
you.
With Jordan Harris, yeah, I mean, it's always a pleasure to get to chat with Jordan. I mean, I've told, my wife or friends ask me about different players and what they're like, and they ask, what's Jordan Harris like? And I always have the same answer. I said, he might be the nicest kid I've ever met. I shouldn't say kid, I should say young man. He's 23 years old.
Yeah.
And that's within sports or outside of sports. And I got a chance to meet his parents and speak with them yesterday also. I met his mom briefly during the Canadiens' mother's trip 2 seasons ago when she was in Washington, but just a very brief hello. But his dad and mom were both there yesterday. I had a chance to chat with both of them. Really nice couple. Not surprisingly, they've raised just a wonderful young man.
Yeah.
And he deserved the award. He speaks often about how he wants to be more than a hockey player. And he showed that again yesterday, just the way he dealt with the young fans and old fans, and talked about, being a good person is even more important than being a good hockey player. And he's both. So I said to his parents, and I said, I'm not saying this just because I'm talking to you. I've told lots of other people, your son is one of the nicest young men I've ever met. So his mom was very flattered by the comment, but they've done a remarkable job with him. And also with his dad, he finished all 4 years at Northeastern University. He graduated with a business administration degree. And I asked both his parents, how important was that to you? And his dad said it was very important. He said, education came first. Hockey would always be there. And they thought it was really important for him to finish his 4 years at university, get his degree before turning pro, which is what he did. He was captain at Northeastern his last year there. And, I wrote in the column earlier today, Rob Ramage probably had the best line I've heard to describe Jordan Harris, the director of player development. He said, if Jordan Harris wanted to, he could probably be president of the United States. He says the right things, but some people you can tell they don't really mean it. Like it's sort of they know him. It's natural and it's authentic, and he's just a super, super nice young man and very well deserving of the award.
Imagine how good he would be if he would have had his father's size. He's a man.
He's
a mammoth of a man.
Yeah, he was saying that when his mom first saw his dad, she thought he was a football player. That might have been what attracted her to him also. But he's a physiotherapist in Boston, and he's done work with some of the Bruins players over the years. So Jordan, as a youngster, got a chance to meet some of the Boston players. And he talked about, when I was interviewing him yesterday, how Marco Sturm came to one of his practices when he was a youth hockey player, 10 or 12 or something like that. And Marco posed for a photo with him. And Jordan still has that photo on his fridge, like a magnet photo on his fridge from that. And when he was, yesterday you were there, Tony, you saw all the young fans, old fans asking for autographs, asking for pictures. And he said it's sort of surreal to him to be on the other side of that now because he still remembers being the young boy. It's not that long ago. He's only 23 years old. Yeah. He remembers what it was like being the young boy and Marco Sturm showing up at practice and being like, wow, he actually took a picture with me. And he spoke about how much he enjoys interacting with the fans. And he said that he hopes they enjoy it as much as he enjoys doing it. And, you saw the kids yesterday. They absolutely love not only the kids, the adults who had a chance to meet with him. And he's just so honest and gracious and polite with everybody he meets. And, I've seen it when the cameras are on him. I've seen it when the cameras aren't on him. It was after Christmas a couple of years ago, and I can't remember where the Canadiens were. It was like the first road game. And I was walking by the morning skate by the Canadiens locker room, and Jordan was just outside the room doing his stretching and whatnot. And I said, hey, Jordan, how you doing? He went, I'm good, Stu. How are you? I said, good. He says, and then he says, how was your Christmas? And I sort of stopped dead in my tracks because, it's rare that players ask about your own personal family stuff or anything like that. And that's fine. I mean, we're doing our job. They're doing their job. And then I ended up having about a 10, 15-minute conversation with him. He was just asking me what we did for Christmas, how old my kids were. Not stuff you'd expect from any professional athlete, especially not a 23-year-old professional athlete. But he's like that with everybody. It's not. It's sincere. I said he was just a really well raised and brought up kid, and his parents. My son's the same age as him. Yeah, and I can imagine how proud his parents must be. And I asked his mom when he was signing autographs yesterday, when I was talking to her off to the side, I said, "What's it like when you see that?" And she said, "It's flattering." And they should be very. I know they are, and they should be very, very proud of their son. They have two sons also.
He reminds me of I don't know why, but maybe just because he's such a nice guy and very genuine. Paul Byron, I thought, was like that too, and still is. Yep. Paul Byron is just a salt of the earth and just a great guy. But
when Paul Byron came here, Tony, and you're absolutely right, they're very similar in personality. Yeah. But Paul Byron was older. Married, been placed on waivers, much more mature in age, like an older guy. Yeah. You're not as surprised maybe to see him be that way. But when it's a 23-year-old kid who acts the same as a 28 or 29-year-old Paul Byron, it's really impressive.
It's impressive. It is. Yeah. It is. Look, I got this from a member of the organizing committee. Okay. I think people should know this. I think it's important because the Canadian season ended. It'll be 7 weeks tomorrow. Okay. Yeah. When the season was over, Jordan Harris went back to his hometown of Boston. Of course, spent time with his parents, and that's where his family and friends are. And of course, hasn't been there the entire season because he's been with the Montreal Canadiens. When the organizing committee decided that Jordan Harris was going to be the sports personality of the year at the Jewish Sports Celebrity Breakfast, they contacted his agent and they said, listen, this is, we'd like to name Jordan the sports personality of the year. and we're wondering if he's available to come down to the event. And the agent said, sure, when is the event? And, I'll get back to you. And took a couple of days. And by the end of the week, it was all a done deal. But here's the thing, Stu. He didn't ask for an appearance fee.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't ask to, so that they take care of his dad's flight or his mom's flight or his flight. He didn't ask to be put up in a hotel. He didn't ask for anything. Here's a guy who recognized also, this is a charity event. Now, I have nothing, by the way, nothing against athletes who charge for, during charity events. And as a matter of fact, I know a lot of them who do. It's not going to change my mind how I feel about them. And I get it. I get it. But so much respect for this gesture of not asking for anything, and then no flight and no hotel and no appearance and no nothing. This is someone who says, you know what, I'm being honored. This is a great event. They're trying to raise money for a great cause. And you know what? Why dip into that budget? Let's try and give as much as we can to the cause. And I think that had to be said. And
you're right, Tony. The athletes who do it, charities are often more than happy to pay because they get back probably 10 times whatever it costs them. But for a young kid like that to realize that, and I was speaking about him, and they came up for the weekend. Him and his parents, they drove up from Boston and had some nice dinners and spent a nice weekend together as a family. And then what a way to top it off. To have your son honored in the way he was. And there's lots of stories like that. A good buddy of mine, I'm sure he won't mind me mentioning his name, Dean Clark. He retired and had been retired for about a year, and he was looking for a job, just something to do, a little money for golf or something to keep busy. So he got a job working at the Canadiens boutique in Brossard. And he's been doing that for a couple of years now. And then he told me the story, and I'm sure he won't mind me sharing this. Jordan came in one day after practice and was looking for some baby-sized Canadian sweaters for his nieces or nephews or something that he wanted to ship back home. It's probably near Christmas time. And what he wanted, and they didn't have the right size. So my buddy Dean told him, well, I can get it from the store downtown, or I can order it and it'll take 2 days, and I'll get it here, and you can pick it up after practice later this week. And I said, oh, you do that for me? He says, definitely, it's not a problem at all. He says, no, give me your cell number. I'll give you my cell number, and you can call me a couple of days, and I'll let you know if it's ready. And Jordan says, well, no, I'll give you my cell number, and why don't you just call me, when it's ready. And my buddy was thinking in his head at the time, being like, you probably shouldn't do that. Just hand out your cell, playing for the Canadiens, be handing out your cell number to people. But he did. And that's, a couple of days later when the stuff came in, my buddy called him, and Jordan went and picked it up. And he said, can I do anything for you? He said, well, would you mind signing a sweater? I bought one of my daughter's sweaters or something. And he signed the sweater, and just no cameras on, no lights on, nothing.
Yeah.
If I hadn't been just talking with my buddy, I would never have known that story. And I'm sure there's 1,000 other stories like that around the city that Montreal fans can probably share that when they got a chance to meet him also in public.
Our buddy Herb Zurkowski of the Montreal Gazette was on stage interviewing Jordan Harris yesterday. Lucky Jordan. And at the Sports Celebrity Breakfast is thinking of coming out with the Humility Award next year, which will be given to her. We have so much fun with him. He's a piece of
Jordan said, I was talking to you after practice, and Jordan said, I like talking to you too. And Herb said, every athlete says that.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. But all kidding aside, it was a real good conversation where they talked about the NHL player inclusion program and the NHL coalition, and talked about a lot of things. And one of the things they talked about is the trade rumors.
Yeah.
Jordan's been involved in a lot of them, and it's not because he's a nice guy that he shouldn't be traded. Yep. However, I think in this management team's eyes, good people go a long way.
Yes.
And I think we should have this conversation, right? Because Jeff Gordon and Kent Hughes, one of the things they talked about was bringing players here and keeping players here that are good people.
Yeah.
You can't get better than this guy. So, we understand why he's involved in the trade rumors.
Yeah.
He's not the biggest.
No.
He's not the strongest. He's not the fastest. He's not the most offensive. He's not the most defensive. He's not the most physical.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a very, very smart hockey player on and off the ice, who you just get the feeling is never going to get into any bit of trouble whatsoever, will always represent the Montreal Canadiens in a great way. And every team that usually goes far in the Stanley Cup playoffs have a player whose number one skill set is smarts, and that's his.
Well, it was 2018. They drafted him in the 3rd round, 71st overall. A good pick by Marc Bergevin in that one. And that year at development camp, I went and watched the development camp, and I wrote a column, if you Google, do a search for it. And the headline was, Canadiens prospect Jordan Harris worth keeping an eye on. He impressed me at that first development camp, just the way he skated with his head up, the way he saw space, the way he took advantage of openings when they were created. He stood out. He was just, and a 3rd round pick. He just looked really, really, really good. And these are all the reasons what you're talking about is why he's on his name's on all these trade bait lists, because he's appealing to other teams. And if the Canadiens want to acquire top 6 forwards with offense, you got to give up something, right? They don't come cheap. So other teams are obviously going to be interested in a Jordan Harris. He's 23 years old. He has 131 games of NHL experience already. He has 1 more year in his contract with $1.4 million cap hit, which is nothing. He's an effective defenseman. He said he's not the best at anything, but overall he's very good. His dad said how he was a late bloomer playing in Boston. Was asked is that, what age did you think Jordan maybe had what it might take to make it in the NHL? And he said maybe 15 or 16, because up until that point there was other guys getting all the attention, and Jordan was, as he said, sort of like the complementary player on his team. But at 15, 16, he said Jordan sort of gained more confidence in himself. And it showed from that point forward. So at 16, that's only 7 years ago. That's it's not a long time ago. And we've seen him progress also with the Canadiens. So the reason that his name comes up in the trade room is because other teams know the Canadiens are looking for offensive prospects.
And it also, Stu, it also comes up because the Canadiens aren't ready to trade a Mike Matheson or a Caden Gooley.
Exactly. Exactly. So if they're going to trade some of the young defensemen, teams will, Arbor Jacka is a guy teams will want, right? Jordan Harris is a guy teams want. Caden Gooley teams would love, but I don't see them trade. There's no way they're going to trade Caden Gooley. But Harris is a guy who fits in there. Is there a guy that we can give up that, we can live without? And he might be the guy. And I asked him yesterday.
He's not the biggest guy. And with Lane Hudson coming, was not the biggest guy. As a matter of fact, he's not big at all.
No.
Do you want to have a small decor?
And then Struble, made a leap up the depth chart this year also. That factors in. But I asked Jordan yesterday, when I actually have the quote here still, I transcribed it, saying, how are you handling the trade rumors? And his response was, in stride. That stuff's definitely out of my control, at least for the summer. There's no games to be played in the summer or anything else. So you just got to take it in stride. Management will do what they think is best for the team, and that's their job. So you just got to take it as it is and control what you can. Keep training and get ready for the upcoming season. He said it all like he understands. If they trade him, it's not. Yeah. And I also asked his parents about his relationship with Kent Hughes, because they're both from the same area. And his mom said they've known Kent since Jordan was about 5 years old, because Jordan and one of Kent's sons were the same age, and they played for different hockey programs in the Boston area. So they played against each other all the time. So they would see each other in the rinks and that. And I asked his mom, what was your reaction when you found out Kent was the GM? He said, we were shocked. Like, we had no idea it was coming. So, Kent Hughes knows Jordan Harris as well as anybody. It was Marc Bergevin who drafted him. He knows everything about him. And if Jordan Harris does get traded, it's not going to be an easy decision for Kent Hughes. For all the reasons we were talking about before, and factor into he's known since he was 5 years old. He obviously has a soft spot for him.
Yeah, here's that article in the Montreal Gazette that you were talking about, if we could take a look right now. Here. Canadiens Jordan Harris knows life is more than just hockey. For those who didn't have a chance to see it, Stu, why don't you talk to us about the gist of the article?
It's just, we were saying before how he wants to be more than a hockey player. He talked about being in the inclusion committee that the NHL has, and he talked about how important it is for him to attend these events and be part of the community. And, he spoke about how, it doesn't bother him being stopped for autographs, being asked to think. And when you see him yesterday, when he was signing autographs and whatever, you were there, Tony, he was smiling the whole time. He was enjoying it. It's not like, I got to sign another autograph. It's not like he's hiding in the corner, looking to make an escape out. He enjoys and appreciates the fact that he can do this. And, he was talking about, being more than a hockey player, and the way he was raised also, you say the only black Jewish player in the NHL. And I asked him about, actually, it might have been Herb, I think, asked him during the interview what it was like. And he said, I was really lucky the way me and my brother were raised because we got to experience so many different aspects and cultures and people. Passover and so many great memories that we'll have. And I think it's really helped me out in hockey because you meet people from all different sorts. Especially in hockey, you play with different teammates from Europe, Canada, the U.S., and at the end of the day, it helps you become a good person, and that's what I try to get out and do every day. I think I'm very lucky to have grown up like that because not everybody has that. There's a lot of hatred out there in the world, so I'm really fortunate. Remember, this is a 23-year-old kid speaking, right?
Wow.
And then you see where he gets it from. So I also asked his dad, and because of length restriction, I didn't get a chance to get this in the column, but I asked his dad, how are you handling the trade talks? And his dad said, we'd like them to stay in Montreal. They love the fact they can drive here, right? Boston's a 6-hour drive or whatever it is. They can drive up here, and they drove up for the event. It wasn't like they had to get in a plane.
Less than that, actually.
Yeah. So they were really happy about it. But here's what his dad said when I said how he deals with it. He says, I know it's part of the business. I understand that. Sometimes it's a compliment if someone else would want whatever he lends to a team. Being able to come up here, drivable access-wise, with the community we've met, we'd love to see him stay in Montreal. From my perspective, it's a little disappointing to think he could leave the team, but we both understand that in hockey, there's a small window for your career. So wherever he can play, wherever someone wants him to play, he's so affable. He's such a good kid. We'll do this again somewhere else. There's no issue with him ending up somewhere else. So when you wonder how the apple doesn't fall far from the tree,
yeah.
And Jordan wasn't near his parents when I asked him the question, and his parents weren't near him. That's two separate answers, but more or less saying the same thing. So you see where Jordan's intelligence and just thoughtfulness, like for a 23-year-old kid to think that way, and even for his dad, and he's right. NHL career is a very small window. So if the Canadians move him on and he gets an opportunity somewhere else, you make the best out of that.
Yeah. I want to give a shout out to Sir Winston's. They're kicking off their terrace season, and we're gearing up for the Grand Prix weekend. Winnie's always a fun time. In the center of the action, come try the everyday classic apps, nachos, and chicken wings, or try the fabulous burgers. The Winnie's salad is always a great choice. For the jambalaya is an all-time customer favorite. Enjoy happy hour 5 to 7 with complimentary hors d'oeuvre at the buffet 5 days a week. See you at Winnie's on Crescent. I'm going to be there this Friday, June 7th at 1 p.m. We're going to be there at Winnie's, a live podcast. We're going to be talking Canadian Grand Prix, 1455 Crescent Street, downtown Montreal. Stu, I don't know if you're going to be busy on Friday, but if you want to drop by for a pint, it's on me on the terrace. All right, okay, good.
Actually, I have another quote here. I found my list of quotes, Tony, when I was talking about his dad saying, I asked him what age did he realize Jordan had a special talent, might be able to play in the NHL. And as I mentioned earlier, his quote was probably around 15 or 16. I think he was one of those late bloomers because we were around a lot of players who were getting a lot of attention at the time. The comparisons always seemed very daunting. Jordan was always a nice complimentary player, but then he started himself to feel more positive about his game when he was 15 or 16. So that's only 7 years ago.
Yeah.
He goes out to Northeastern, third-round draft pick, captain of the team.
Let's take a look at his hockey DB, as a matter of fact. Let's bring it up. All right, there you have it. Like you said, third-round pick, 71st overall in 2018, 23 years old, from Massachusetts. He is 5'11", about $190. 4 years at Northeastern University, where once again he completed his degree in business administration. Came down to the Canadians in 2021, 2022, played the final 10 games of the season. As a matter of fact, he scored a goal. Last year, he played 65 games, 4 goals, 13 assists, 17 points. This season, or this past season, 56 games, 3 goals, 11 assists, 14 points. Based on what he did in college hockey and based on what he's done in the National Hockey League, you don't think that he's going to put up big numbers. Having said that, let's take a look at where he ranks with other Montreal Canadiens defensemen in terms of points. Okay, in terms of points, NHL.com. That's time on ice. If we can just bring up the other one, if we can.
Yeah, 17 minutes of ice time. Yeah.
Well, we'll get to the points one in first, and then we'll get back to this one if we can. Think we have it coming up. There should be another one. Maybe we don't have it. Okay. Let's go to the time on ice then. Let's go to the time on ice. I'll try and get the one with the points.
Even talking, Tony, about him being a late bloomer. he was the he was the 6th player the Canadians selected at the 2018 draft. They took Jesperi Kotkaniemi 3rd overall. They took Jesse Ylönen in the 2nd round, 35th.
Yeah.
Alexander Romanov in the 2nd round, 38th. They took Jacob Olofsson in the 2nd round, 56th. They took Cam Hillis in the 3rd round, 66th. And then Jordan Harris, 71st overall. So you talk about being a late bloomer. 3rd round pick, also the 6th player that the Canadians selected out of that draft.
All right, let's take a look at the time on ice. We'll get the points in just a second, by the way. Mike Matheson, 25-33 on average. Lane Hudson only played 2 games, 22-43. Logan Mailloux only played 1 game, 21-14. Caden Gooley, 20-51. David Savard, 20-14. Justin Barron, 18-38. But here's something interesting, okay? Jordan Harris, 17-28. Kovacevic, 16-31. Struble, 16-07. Jack Guy, 15-56. So he averaged more ice time than 3 other Canadians regulars, than Kovacevic, Struble, and Jack Guy.
Yep. And
it's
minus,
interesting.
It is. And plus minus is one of those stats that some people put no weight in and some people put too much weight in. And I always say, like all stats, it's something you need to take with a grain of salt, and plus minus, sometimes you need a big grain of salt. But he's got 131 games in the NHL playing on a not very good hockey team, and he's -5. So that says something, right? I mean, it's
yes, of course it does.
That he's defensively responsible. He, as you say, he's not the most physical guy playing defense, but he uses his smarts. And talking with Lane Hudson's coach at Boston University, the assistant coach, and they were saying that's one of the things he's so good at. Even though he's not big, he's strong on his skates. He's good at his angles. He has a good stick. There's other things you need to do well.
Yeah,
and Jordan Harris is like that too. And I've seen improvements since he's been with the Canadians, which is, you would expect after a young guy coming in here. And again, what we like about Jordan Harris and what the Canadians like about Jordan Harris is what other teams are going to like about Jordan Harris. And if you want to make a trade, you got to give something up, right?
But let's take a look at the points now. And I think we're going to be able to look. Mike Matheson, 62 points. David Savard, 24. Gooley, 22. Jordan Harris, 14. Barron, 13. Correct. Barron, 13. Kovacevic, 13. Jack-Eye, 10. Struble, 10. And, Gustav Lidstrom, who was traded away, 4. And Lane Hudson, 2 points in 2 games. And Logan Mailloux, 1 point in 1 game. Now, in those stats, you're going to find some players who played more games than Harris and some players who played less games than Harris. Kovacevic played 6 more games. He's got 1 less point. Jack-Eye played 12 less games. He's got 4 less points. Struble played the same amount of games. He's got 4 less points. See, it's interesting because he's not the biggest once again. He's not the strongest, and he's not the fastest. But he has more time on ice than 3 regulars, and he has more points than another 3 regulars. But yet, he's the name that you probably hear more often than not in those trade rumors.
Because other teams, there's a lot to like. And the off-ice stuff, the type of person he is, plays a role in that too. He's got huge leadership abilities. I mean, he's captain at Northeastern. I imagine before the end of his career, wherever he ends up, he's going to be an assistant captain or a captain at some point in his career, depending where he ends up playing. He's got all those abilities, all those qualities in him. But he doesn't do anything great, but he does a lot of things very well, I guess would probably be the best way to sum it. And his biggest gift is his brain. He's got a smart hockey IQ, and he can skate. He can move the puck.
I know Canadiens fans are going to hate hearing this. So it'll never happen, or it never happened. I mean, the Canadiens are not trading him to Boston. I mean, mind you, when was the last time the Canadiens and the Bruins made a trade? Yeah. I think it was Eric Weinrich for Patrick Tavares or something like that, right? But like Don Sweeney was not a big guy. He's the GM of the Boston Bruins. It just seems like
he'd be a perfect fit there, right?
A perfect fit there, right?
Like Boston would want a kid like that.
They had Torrey Krug, who was not a big guy, mind you. Torrey Krug was more of an offensive player and could play more power play and stuff. But anyway, I hope for the best for him, because once again, like you said, and there's that thing, they want good people here, and he's a good person. Let's take a look at Habs Cap Friendly. We'll take a look at the contract situation, which is also something we should take a look at. Michael Matheson is going to be in their contract for the next 2 years at $4.875. David Savard's contract at $3.5 million is going to be up next year, and then he's going to be a UFA. Jordan Harris is going to be in the final year of his contract at $1.4. Then he'll be an RFA. Lane Hudson, of course, has a 2-year deal at $950 next year and $950 the year after because he burned the first year. Caden Gooley will have 1 more year left at $863. Then he's an RFA, and you'd have to think he's going to break the bank. Jonathan Kovacevic will have 1 more year at $766, and then he goes UFA. Arbor Jackey's an RFA as we speak. So he's under contract for another year at a good amount, and this is not the kind of player who's going to cost you a lot on the cap.
No, he's not. He's not, and that factors into it also. And we're talking about Kovacevic. I mean, Kovacevic, one of his biggest qualities is he knows his limitations and he doesn't go beyond them, which is another guy I think would be valuable. He's making the NHL minimum as a 6th or 7th defenseman, but you're not going to get he need to be packaged with a few other things if you're going to get a top forward. But he has, and Jordan's the same way. Jordan knows his limitations and his capabilities, and they're a little higher than Kovacevic's. Obviously, a better skater, better puck mover, hockey IQ maybe a little higher. Although Kovacevic's also got a very high hockey IQ. But the contract, there's just so many things that factor into it. When we were talking earlier, Tony, about him being one of the nicest young men I've met. I put a post on Facebook yesterday, having a chance to meet Jordan's parents, and I wrote, they have raised one of the nicest young men I have ever met. And Pierre Hood, who has been around the Canadiens for a long time, one of the few media people who still travels with the team. He sees these guys in the plane, in the hotel, everything else. And his comment to my comment was, "You're so right about that, Stu." So it's not just, it's he has that. Everybody who's been involved with him or has dealt with Jordan Harris would think the same way. I think he's a very, there's a lot to like about him on and off the ice. And that's why, as I'm repeating myself here, but that's why I think other teams would have a lot of interest in him. And I think when teams are calling Kent Hughes or when he's calling them, his name's coming up. When the Canadiens are looking to move, Arbor Jackey's name's coming up. I think those two guys would be right near the top of the list, only because, as I mentioned, I don't see them moving Caden Gooley. There's a lot to like about Canadiens captain Nick Suzuki, by the way, as well, who was there to support Jordan Harris yesterday, and that was like a real captain thing to do. Suzuki, who's sticking around here all summer the way he did a year ago. Of course, he's got a house in Westmount which he renovated extensively. By the way, I know that because my neighbor is one of the people who did the renovations. By the way, and so he's got himself a beautiful spot, and he got engaged. Yeah, he got engaged. He proposed a couple of weeks ago. I believe they were in the Dominican. He and his fiance were, and he popped the question. Nick Suzuki is just a great captain. He's just so. He's kind of like John Beliveau-esque in terms of he's quiet. He's just a good leader. He's a quiet leader. He's a real gentleman on and off the ice. He was there to support Jordan Harris. I think he's great. I think Jordan's great. I'm going to put you on the spot here. I'm not going to ask you who, but if the Canadiens had to add a defenseman to a deal that can bring in a forward and make them better as part of a package, would Harris be the guy that you would part with, or would there be somebody else and you don't have to name the player? I think Harris would be the guy. Kent Hughes knows about asset management, and I think he realizes that he has a good asset with Jordan Harris. And I think that if he wants to push a deal over the line and get something done, I think Jordan Harris would almost have to be part of it, because he's not going to give up Caden Gooley. And I think a guy who's played 130 games in the NHL and everything we've talked about before, I think other teams would have a lot of interest in.
Do you think he would give up Jackey before Harris?
That's a really good question. I don't think so, because Jackey, when they drafted his brother, not Martin Lapointe, the other scouting director, I can't remember his name off the top of my head now. It's
Nick Bobrov.
Nick Bobrov, thank you. He called Jackey's brother a unicorn, right?
Yeah,
I think Arbor is a unicorn. There's not a lot of guys in the NHL who can do what he does. We've seen in the playoffs, Ryan Reeves, healthy scratch. The big kid with the Rangers, the fighter, a healthy scratch. You can't dress guys who can only there to fight in the playoffs. Arbor has shown that he's one of the most feared fighters in the NHL, but he doesn't have to fight. He's much He's very effective just playing his physical style and moving the puck, and with that big slap shot he has and that size. One thing we see in the playoffs, size matters, man, especially in the playoffs and especially on defense. When the Canadiens made that run to the Stanley Cup final in 2021, it was those 4 Clydesdales on defense that helped them get there. And you got to have some size, and you got to have some toughness too. And I'm not talking fighting. You just have to have a guy that will defend his teammates, and when he's on the ice, other players know not to go over the line or do whatever. And I think Arbor Xhekaj just brings a lot of things that other players don't have that are hard to find. So that's why I would say I would move Jordan Harris before I would move Arbor Xhekaj. In a perfect world, you wouldn't want to move either of them, but you got to get something.
3 more quick questions for you in ending.
Just in a second, Tony, when you're talking about Nick Suzuki, captain, he's 24 years old also. He's only a year older.
Yeah.
You talk about him with Beliveau, the comparisons, and I see that in some ways. He's still so young, though. But the most impressive thing is he gets it. He gets what it means to be captain of the Canadiens. And it's not just on the ice. He gets it. And Shea Weber never really got that, the off-ice type thing.
No, he didn't.
He didn't, for him to be there, for Nick Suzuki to be there yesterday, he wasn't getting any award. He wasn't interviewed. He wasn't nothing. He was just there as support for his teammate and support for the community and support for the event. He'd been there before. He was there with Cole Caulfield a couple of years ago. I missed last year because it was the same Sunday as Grand Prix, and I was covering the Grand Prix. But that's what captains do. That's what good captains do.
Yes, you're right
Nick
about
Suzuki gets it. He understands what it means to be captain of the Canadiens. Max Pacioretty got it too. But Max Pacioretty's personality was a little different than Nick's, where you let things bother him that Nick is able to not let bother him.
He got rattled. Pacioretty got rattled, right?
And Nick has been, for a kid who's 24 years old. And again, you're talking about the apple not falling far from the tree with Jordan Harris. I've had a chance to speak with Nick Suzuki's dad and his mom a few times. I had quite a lengthy chat with his mom on the mom's trip. And Nick didn't fall far from the tree either. I mean, he's got great parents, well-raised, smart kids, nice to be around. And you're right, he has handled this captaincy as well as could ever be expected.
Mind you, as much as Pacioretty got rattled, and he did. Pacioretty was a fine hockey player and a great goal scorer, but he got rattled pretty easily.
But he understood the importance of being out in the community.
He did. But what I was going to get at was, I think Jeff Gordon and Kent Hughes communicate with Nick Suzuki differently than Marc Bergevin communicated with Max Pacioretty. And that could be a difference too, right? That could be a difference too.
Without a doubt. Without his Nick Suzuki's, Marc Bergevin and Michel Therrien named Max Pacioretty captain, and then all of a sudden we thought he was a terrible captain. So whose fault is that? Why did you name him captain then if you didn't?
It was a bad sign when they showed up at the wrong house.
Wrong house, remember that? Yeah. Pacioretty looked out the door and he saw Bergevin Therrien at his neighbor's house.
I asked that question, by the way.
That was the sign of things.
How did you break the news to him, and where were you, and who you were with, and did you pop a bottle of champagne? And then Marc Bergevin said we rang the doorbell, we went to the wrong house, and Michel Therrien was like dying of laughter. Remember when he said that? That was a great moment, actually. 3 very quick questions, and then we'll let you go. Number 1. Who wins the Stanley Cup? Number 2, and how many games? And number 3, even if the Oilers lose, is Connor McDavid not going to win the Conn Smythe as the MVP?
Florida Panthers in 6. I think their team was built for the playoffs, and Bobrovsky is the $10 million goalie again, right?
So that's your guy. Panthers 6 and Bobrovsky.
He's just been amazing. He's been amazing. And if Edmonton wins, I think it's Connor McDavid, but Bobrovsky he's been what the Panthers were hoping he would be when they gave him that contract, and then it looked like that was a disaster, right?
I'm torn because I've been saying for the longest time that I really want Connor McDavid to win the Stanley Cup. Yeah. But on NHL trade deadline day, I put $1 or $2 down on the Florida Panthers to win the Stanley Cup.
I would like Edmonton to win. I mean, I wrote a column about this. I'd love to see a Canadian team win the Cup again. I'd love to see Connor McDavid win the Cup again. It's a great turnaround story since their new head coach came in and all that. But I just think the Florida Panthers were built for the playoffs. And I was speaking with Guy Carbonneau. I wrote a couple of columns on him last week, and about the Cup he won in Dallas in '99. And he said the year before they lost in the semifinals, like it was. And he says, Carbonneau said, I've always believed you have to learn how to lose before you learn how to win. And the Panthers went all the way to the final last year, and they lost. And I think they were upset, and I think they had that taste in their mouth right through the offseason that we're going back and we're going to win it this time. And with Bobrovsky, he's the difference maker. I mean, they had a team. They've had a team last year that could have won the Stanley Cup. The goaltending wasn't at the level it's been now, But with Waskey at the top of his game and that team, we were talking earlier about Arbor Jackeye. The playoffs, you need to be tough.
Yeah.
You need to be physical. You don't need to fight, but your best players need to be tough. And their best players are tough.
Yeah.
The Toronto Maple Leafs best players aren't tough. That's why they
Yeah, you're right about that. And I think, by the way, that Tyler Seguin had a great quote last night after the game, too, where he talked about hockey being a hard game. And that's why it's so hard to win the Stanley Cup. And they went through 2 very hard, grinding, grueling series. And they got into their 3rd series, and they actually thought they could beat the Edmonton Oilers, but they lost. And he says sometimes it's 1 goal, it's 1 power play, it's 1 save. But then he said, for whatever reason, hockey is one of those games where sometimes you need to learn how to lose, or you have to lose before you end up winning. So anyway, your prediction is noted, and thanks so much for doing this. We'll talk to you soon, my man. And once again, if you want to drop by for a pint, I will be at Sir Winston's. I'll be at Winnie's this Friday at 1 p.m. for a special Grand Prix podcast. Canadian Grand Prix is coming to Montreal, of course, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday next week, with the race being on Sunday, June 9th. We'll talk to you next couple of days, Stu. Cheers.
Sounds like a great plan, Tony.
All right, there you have it. Stu Cowan of the Montreal Gazette, HockeyInsideOut.com. For Sammy and in yellow at Master Control, I want to thank all of our sponsors. I want to thank Energy Transportation Group. I want to thank Playground, and I want to thank Bittt at Tibi. They're Cavallaro. I'm Marinaro. Have a great night. It's the Sick Podcast.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. LaVie.tv, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.